Hey, Matt here with herbivoremuscle.com. Today we are talking vegan nutrition for kids. So, if you're a vegan yourself, you probably want to raise your little ones that way as well. Most people come to the vegan lifestyle, vegan way of eating through a lot of time through compassion for animals. Maybe you're into it for the environment, maybe you got into it for health. But one thing I think that we can all say is that if we hold those personal views, we want to raise our children that way as well. The thing that's important to keep in mind is that nutrition for kids is very different than nutrition for us adults. Okay? Kids have different needs. They're in a major stage of development. Their brains are growing, their bodies are growing. They're turning some cartilage into bone material. They're growing their muscles. Everything is just getting bigger. And so they have some needs that are a little bit different than what we do. So, especially as I go and I scroll through lately, there's been a whole bunch on social media. There's a lot out there. There's a lot everywhere. And I'm not here to bash on anything. But under the umbrella of veganism, then we can find information on being a raw vegan or following an alkaline vegan diet. And what you've decided to do as an adult is completely up to you. And you're able to tell how you're feeling and whether or not you're sluggish or if something's not sitting right with your gut, with your body, if things aren't working and you're able to make those adjustments. But if you're a parent, you know how hard it is, even when your kids aren't feeling good. If your kid says, "Oh, my tummy's kind of bothering me," what does that mean? Are they sick? Are they getting the flu? Did they eat too much? Are they hungry? It's so hard for them to really say, "This is how I'm feeling and this is what's going on." And so that's why it's important for us just to kind of have some of our bases covered, know what they need, and then be able to get those things for them. So let's dive right into vegan nutrition for kids and let's make sure that we're getting kids everything that they need. The first big thing here is a vegan diet appropriate for children? And here you go. According to the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, yes, vegetarian and vegan diets, well planned. I love this. It says right in here, including vegan diets are healthful, nutritionally adequate, and may provide health benefits for the prevention and treatment of certain diseases. Okay. Right on that first line there, there's a line that I want everybody to pay attention to, and that's this: appropriately planned vegetarian, including vegan diets. Appropriately planned. This comes back to that I was talking about. Kids simply have different needs than we do as adults. So, and that's kind of what I want to. That's what I really want to go through here. So let's take a look what I mean by that. How are children's needs different from us adults? Number one, they need more fat, especially for us vegans. A lot of us have followed a little bit more of a low fat lifestyle, much higher carbs, probably even a little bit lower protein, and definitely a little bit lower fat. The whole food, plant based, no oil is a big one for a lot of people who have been looking at healthy eating. Kids simply need more fat. They need more fat as they're growing their brains. Their hormones are adjusting and growing. They have to have fat in their diets to make sure that they get everything that they need. They need more protein. They don't need more protein in grams than we do as adults. Obviously, as a 160 or 200-pound adult, you're going to need a lot more protein than a 15-pound child, or 20 or even 35 pounds. But as far as like percentages of how much they're eating, they need a lot of protein. Remember that protein provides us those building blocks to build structures. And kids are in a massive stage of development. So they need a lot of protein and they need calories. They need a lot of calories. Again, on the vegan side of things, especially if you've come over on the health side of vegan eating, hopefully you're not necessarily watching calories. You're just eating a good whole food plant-based diet and you're getting everything that you need. But it's really important to understand that kids need a lot of calories. They're going to be moving a lot, but their bodies at rest are burning a lot of calories to grow structures. So they need a lot. The last part that we'll talk about today is just that they need vitamins and minerals. They've got certain vitamins and minerals that they absolutely have to get and that we must pay attention to as vegan parents. All right, calories. So, what do kids need? Okay, this is from the Mayo Clinic. These are figures that are widely recognized nutritionists, dietitians, doctors. They should have a really good idea of how many calories kids need. So this is what we're looking at. I'm not going to go into infant nutrition. I'm not going to go into 0 to 6 months, birth to 1 year. Even up to 2 years, I'm going to kind of stay out of that stage of it. We're going to look once kids are pretty well weaned, okay, 2 years old, and we've moved on into that. They're eating whole foods, making sure that we get them what they need. So I'm also going to take this opportunity. If you are no longer nursing, please make sure that you're giving your child a formula. Okay, so if you're vegan, you're not going to want a milk based or a whey based. If you're a vegetarian, all right, awesome. If you want to go that direction, great, do that. If not, soy based infant formulas are phenomenal. Okay, they're going to provide everything that growing kids need. Don't look at the nutrition label. Get a good soy based infant formula, call it good. As soon as you start looking at that nutrition label, especially if you're used to looking at nutrition labels, you're going to see a whole bunch of things in there that you can't necessarily pronounce. You don't know what they are. Those are vitamins and minerals and fortifications that kids need for growth. So during that birth to 2 years, okay, birth to a year at least, if you're not nursing, if they're not getting everything that they need there, make sure that they're getting an infant formula. And if you are nursing, make sure that you're getting everything that you need. And I'm not going to go into that here again. I'm just going to kind of cover kids, but make sure that you're getting all the vitamins and minerals and calories that you need in order to be providing for your little one. So ages 2 to 4, 1,000 to 1,600 calories. 5 to 8, 1,200 to 1,800 calories. 9 to 13, 1,400 to 2,200 calories. I know that those are some big ranges. I'm not asking you to go and count calories for your kids. I just want you to have this idea in mind that kids need a lot of calories. They're active. They're growing. So just make sure that we're getting them everything they need. A whole food, plant-based, vegan diet can be lower in calories because food are more nutrient dense, but lower on the calorie side of things. It's hard to fill up on a plate of broccoli, right? You're going to not necessarily hard to fill up on a plate of broccoli. You eat a plate of broccoli, you're not going to get a ton of calories, even though your stomach's going to get really, really full. Okay. Completely different. If you're on the omnivorous side of things, it's really easy if you're eating hamburger to get a lot of calories before you're full. And so we want to make sure that as we're raising vegan kids, we're not necessarily holding so tight to this idea that it all has to be whole grains, which are going to carry a lot of fiber and are really going to fill kids up, or only eating a lot of vegetables and greens. Those things are amazing and they should be a part of the diet, but lightening back just a little bit and giving kids the other things that they need, which might be not necessarily whole wheat based. So maybe you're just giving them a pasta and it's not a whole wheat pasta. It's a processed pasta. It's totally fine. We want to get kids a lot of calories in order to fill up before they fill up their tiny little tummies. And so nuts and seeds and nut butters and foods that are going to carry a lot more calories for them is really going to be big for raising vegan kids. Okay, the protein needs. Most people go kind of on the opposite direction of this, and it's really not difficult to meet the protein needs of your kids. Okay, but I love this. This is out of the Cleveland Clinic, so not necessarily looking at vegan kids; they're just looking at kids in general as they're growing. And Cleveland Clinic, very well respected. Consuming extra protein, particularly from protein supplements, isn't necessarily healthy or beneficial. Okay, and that's especially true for children, especially excessive protein intake doesn't lead to more muscle development, but instead can put stress on the liver and kidneys. So even as vegans, we don't need to be looking at protein shakes and putting in a ton of extra protein. And I'm going to go over exactly how much kids need by age here in just a second. But definitely making sure that they are getting foods that carry protein in them, nuts and seeds and nut butters and beans and legumes, getting all of those in every single day. And even our grains, right? Look at how much is in a piece of bread or in pasta. So here we go. The protein needs by age. 1 to 3 years, they need 13 grams. So we're talking, for some of these kids, we're talking almost a gram per pound. Right? Kids could be, your 1-year-old might only weigh 15 pounds. Okay, 20 pounds, 30 pounds. So we're talking they need quite a bit of protein in comparison to their own body weight. 4 to 8 years old. Okay, and this is where my little ones sit. We're in that 3 up to 8 year old category, and so I'm shooting for this, 15 to 19 grams every single day for both of my kids. 9 to 13, they need about 34 grams. So really, it's not that large of a number. We're not talking a huge amount. We're not talking 75 grams of protein, 100 grams of protein, 30 grams of protein at a sitting and making sure they get all of this in. But it is something we want to be aware of. Okay, a well-balanced whole food diet will provide this in there, but again, as long as we're getting their calories. So making sure we're getting vegan foods that are calorie dense and not filling up on foods that are going to get them so full before they get the calories that they need. Okay, their fat needs, total fat by age. This one works off of percentages. So I'm going to break this down, what this might look like in your house. Ages 2 to 3, they need about 30 to 35% of their calories coming from fat. Okay, for adults, 35% is quite a bit of fat in your diet. We want to be a little bit higher on the carbohydrate side, 50, 55, 60% of our total calories coming from carbohydrates. Okay, and then in that like 20, 25, maybe 30% range. So kids, as far as they go, they need a much higher percentage of their food containing fat. Ages 4 to 18, that's going to drop down a little bit more in line with adults, 25 to 35%. Okay, we want most of those obviously to come from polyunsaturated, monounsaturated fats, which are healthy plant fats. Kids do need, in fact, everybody needs saturated fat. So the idea, this vilification of saturated fat, is not necessarily a good thing. Okay, we don't want too much saturated fat. We know that there can be harm to our cardiovascular system from that, but we do need saturated fats. And if you were to actually track this and just eating a whole food plant-based diet and then look at over the course of a day how much saturated fat you get a fair amount in there. Plant foods are not necessarily void of that, but I don't, especially if you are a whole food vegan, I don't want you worrying about saturated fat, but getting some in there. All right, so how many grams of fat does that work out to? Percentage of calories. So let's look at a 2 to 4-year-old. I just took a mid-range. We're talking 1,000 to 1,600 calories a day, right? So let's look at 1,300, right? Kind of in the middle. So if I take 1,300 and I multiply that by 0.3, so 30%, that would give us 390 calories a day coming from fat. 1 gram of fat is going to provide 9 calories. So if I take that 390 calories and I divide that by 9, that's going to tell me how many grams of fat my little one needs each day. So 30% of calories on a 1,300 calorie diet would come out to about 44 grams of protein every day. If we stick with that 1,300 calorie number, we go a little bit higher, 35%. We're talking 455 calories coming from fat every day. Divide that by 9, because 9 calories and 1 gram of fat, that's going to give us about 51. Okay, so again, I mean, if you really want to figure this out with your kid, if you really want to go and say, okay, my kid is super active, 4 years old, needs that like 1,600, needs about 30% of that, 35% of that coming from fat. But really, you're not going to do that. And I'm not even asking you to do that. Instead, just understand that they need a good amount coming from fat. And if we're in this 45 to probably 60 grams a day amount of fat, you're going to be doing good. Okay. Where do plant fats come from? Where can kids be getting their fats? Peanut butter sandwiches, right? Peanut butter, any kind of a mixed nut butter, any kind of nut butters, almond butter. Those are great. They're going to carry some fats with them. Hemp parts, chia seeds, walnuts, any kinds of nuts and seeds are going to have a good amount of really healthy fat. And we'll talk more about healthy fats here in just a minute as well. But getting all of those in every single day. Oil is great for kids. Okay. The whole food, plant-based, no oil movement has really caught some traction, and it's great if you have a cardiovascular condition. Okay. If you're already eating a whole food, plant-based diet and you don't have any kind of a heart concern right now, okay, completely omitting and limiting, getting rid of all oils in your diets, that's fine for us as adults. It's not necessary. Okay. But for kids, they need it. And people are going to talk to you about vegetable oils and canola oil and how bad they are. Canola oil is loaded with healthy fats for kids. Okay, so a little bit of canola oil every day. Some coconut oil is going to have some saturated fats, which is going to help kids building cell walls. Okay, very, very important. Extra virgin olive oil, linseed oil, flax oil, walnut oil. They're going to carry ALA, alpha linoleic acid, which is going to help create those omega 3s that I'm sure that we've all heard about. And so, again, very important. So, pulling back on that just a little bit, if you are whole food, plant based, no oil all the time, please understand that that's not necessarily a concern for your child. They're already vegan. Their heart is going to be immaculate. They're going to be in such good shape. So don't worry about some of the horror stories and things you've heard about oil. For maybe for us adults, okay, your kids are going to need it. Have it in the house, add it to some of their foods, cook their foods with it. It's okay. Okay, let's dive into vitamins and minerals. We're going to come back to fat here in just a minute. What do they need? Calcium. You get one shot at calcium. Okay, we're going to go more into this, but birthed about 18 years old, we need to make sure that they're getting all the calcium they need, building up good, strong bones so that we can set them up for the rest of their lives, stave off osteoporosis. So, calcium is incredibly important. B12, non negotiable for vegans. Everybody needs to be getting this. With an omnivorous diet, the cow's eating grasses, it's eating out of the ground, it's getting some B12 from the bacteria that's in the ground, it's in the meat. Omnivores eat the meat, they get the B12. Vegans, we're not doing that. We're also not eating a lot of our food straight out of the ground. We're washing things off, we're disinfecting, and in fact, we're disinfecting the ground. We're spraying, and even with organic, there's still some spray. There's still taking care of those crops so that we can get a lot of food out so that everybody has what they need. So we cannot count on B12 from there. So again, we'll go into exactly where to get your B12 from and how much you need. Iodine. This is, in my opinion, this is by far the hardest one to get. We'll talk more about iodine here in a minute. Iron, extremely important. Okay. And then, like I said, we'll circle back around. We'll come back to our fats, our ALA, and our omega 3s. Okay, finally, vitamin D. Um, Summertime, where I live, Pacific Northwest, summertime, we can get a ton of vitamin D. We're outside a lot, but we get about 4 months. And then for the other 8 months of the year, I've got to make sure that my kids are getting that from other sources. Okay, fortified foods. I do want to talk about this. Fortification is a good thing. Okay, fortification is simply adding nutrients back into the food. So let's take white rice. As soon as you process rice and you take away the germ and the bran, once you strip away all of the nutrients from that rice, all you're left with is the energy part of the rice. Okay, the white, the inside. That's not going to carry with it vitamins and nutrients. Okay, those minerals that are in there. And so we fortify, we add some of those back in. Maybe we're adding back in iron, maybe we're adding in vitamin C, whatever we want to add back in. So that's all fortification is. So when it says fortified with, that is a good thing. And especially for vegans, we want to make sure that some of our foods are fortified for our kids. Okay. B12, calcium, vitamin D, iron, these are common fortified into foods, and so be looking for those for your kids. Okay. When we're talking fortification, when you're looking on there and it says iron down on your nutrition label and it's got 6% iron, that's not a good source of iron. Okay. 10 to 19% is a well fortified food. 20% or higher is a great source. But like I said, anything less than 10%, that's not a good source. That doesn't mean don't look at it. Okay, if it's 6%, so it's got a half of a microgram of iron in it. You're looking for 10 a day, so that adds up, especially depending on how much you're looking for. But if you're comparing to, say, breakfast cereals, the one that has a higher percentage of those is the one that you would want to choose, as long as it's one that your kid's going to eat. All right, calcium. Off we go. Why do kids need calcium? Okay, they need a substantial amount to build bone. Okay, kids are actually born with more bones than we are. They some of them fuse together. Our cartilage is going to become hard. You notice when you get kids and their nose is not bony and hard like ours is. It's kind of squishy. Yes, there's some cartilage in there, but some of that's actually going to form into bone. So we need to make sure they're getting all the calcium they need. And like I said, birth to 18, you get one shot to make sure that they're getting all the calcium that they need. so that we're not having bone breakage problems later on. Okay. Remember that calcium is not just about our bones. Our bones, it does use calcium. Okay, we're going to put that in. We're going to make that hard bone material, but it's also a storage. Our bones are a storage place for calcium, because calcium is also used for contraction, dilation, muscle function, blood clotting, nerve transmission, hormone secretion. Calcium actually does a lot for us. And only about, I think, 99% is held in our bones. About 1% is then free floating to help us do these other things. But if there's not enough, if we're not getting enough from our diets, there is the potential to pull more from our bones, and that's where we can run into problems. So we want to make sure that we're getting plenty of calcium for our kids every single day. How much do we need? 1 to 3 years old, they're going to need about 700 milligrams a day. 4 to 8, 1,000. 9 to 13, about 1,300 milligrams a day. So to put this into perspective, an adult also needs 1,000 milligrams of calcium a day. So your 4-year-old needs the same amount of calcium that you do for optimal health and for all of the growth that they're doing. Okay, so that's quite a bit. This is not a difficult one to get, just one that I want you to pay attention to. Okay, where are we going to get calcium from? Off we go, plant-based milks. This is where my kids get the vast majority of their calcium. My kids drink soy milk. I love soy milk, especially for kids. Soy milk, a cup of soy milk is going to have 8 or 9 grams of protein, so you're going to get a good amount of protein in there. It's a complete protein. Okay, I know we kind of moved away from that term, but while all plants do contain all of the essential amino acids, soy has a lot of all of them. Okay, so every plant's going to have a limiting amino acid, lysine, methionine. Some of these amino acids are not going to be there very much. So that's where over the course of a day or a couple of days, we want to be getting in various different foods so that our bodies can kind of pool all those amino acids, put them together, and build our structures. Soy is going to provide everything that you need. So I love soy milk for kids. Okay, a cup of soy milk is usually going to have around 400 milligrams of calcium in it. So 2 cups of soy milk spread throughout the day, you're at 800. You're pretty well hitting your needs already right there. And you've already gotten 16 grams of protein in. So you've already hit your protein needs for your little ones as well in that under 8 years old category. So plant-based milks are huge. Again, take a look at the back. Don't just assume it's got everything in there. Look at how many milligrams of calcium are on the back, and even compare between different brands. Okay, and look, choose the one, again, that your kid's going to drink first, but the one that's got more calcium to it. Calcium fortified foods, tofu, orange juice, cereals. My kids love a glass of orange juice in the morning. It's got, like, I think the one that we get is just a common one, 390 milligrams of calcium. So by the time they get that in the morning, they have some soy milk at lunch, they have a little bit more with dinner, their calcium needs are set and they're good. Okay. We also go through a lot of tofu in my house. I love it. Again, great protein, so easy to cook up and so simple and easy to go with. Not all tofu is calcium set. So again, check on it and make sure it's got a good amount of calcium before you purchase that, and look on any breakfast cereals your kids might eat. Okay, then we're going to have our other foods. Beans are going to have some calcium, and broccoli is going to have some calcium, and dark green leafy vegetables except for spinach. Spinach, while it does have calcium, it's not a good source of calcium. The oxalates in spinach are going to bind to the calcium, which not only are going to block some of the absorption of calcium from the spinach, but also from other foods that you eat. Okay, so as long as you're getting a good amount of calcium, you're totally fine. But of all the dark green leafies, spinach is going to be the one as far as calcium is concerned. I'm not saying don't eat it, but as far as calcium is concerned, that's going to be the one to stay away from. But again, making sure that the calcium fortified foods are in there and the plant-based milks are in there, because beans and broccoli aren't going to have a ton, and kids don't eat a lot. Right. So we want to get some beans in because there's some good protein and there's great fibers in it. And it's such a good, healthy. I know that my kids don't eat a ton of it. I'll give them some on their plate. They'll eat a little bit of it, but they're kind of moving on. So if I'm going to try to get all of their calcium from beans, that's not going to work. All right. B12, like I said, non-negotiable for vegans. Why? Okay. Required for the development and functioning of the nervous system. And our kids are growing. They're growing their brains, everything. This is incredibly important. Okay, red blood cell formation, DNA synthesis. Our kids are growing, they're getting bigger. All of this, it is so incredibly important. You have likely heard, if you have any vegan friends, you've probably heard, well, I've never taken a B12 supplement and I'm just fine. Our liver can hold a lot of B12 and then use it up over time. And so that's where you've got that like 5 to 7 year window where if you're not supplementing with B12, where you can end up being B12 deficient way down the road and having problems from that. So this is one, because we're not getting B12 in our diet. This is absolutely non-negotiable. Okay? A lot of things are fortified with B12, and that also tells you something. Okay, 1 to 2% of people in the United States are vegan. That means 98 to 99% aren't. Yet we're still fortifying foods with B12. That tells you right there that B12 is a population issue. It is not a vegan issue, but it is imperative that we're getting it and that we're getting it for our kids. And so if you nursed, your child is getting some B12, they're going to have some of those stores, but over time, if we're not providing it to them, those stores can wear down and then we can run into problems. Okay. Um, when you look on a nutrition label, the the RDA, the amounts of B12 that we need to get every day are actually very, very low. The problem with that is we don't absorb a lot of what we eat. So the true needs, by the time you've gone through all the math and you've broken down exactly how much is lost, how much we can't absorb, and so then how much we can actually take in and what we need to get, these are the numbers that I provided for you here. Okay, so after infants are weaned, okay, however old that is, 6 months, year and a half, 2.5, however long that you've nursed for, we need to be getting in about 5 micrograms a day. Ages 4 to 10, 25 micrograms a day. Ages 11 or older, 50 micrograms a day, or 2,000 per week. If you look at the foods that you're providing for your little ones, they're probably fortified with B12. So should we supplement with it? First, like I just said, look for fortified foods. Nutritional yeast has got it in there, cereals, plant milks. We don't want to get it in one shot. Get some in breakfast, some in lunch, some in dinner. Spread it throughout the day. That way other foods that you're eating aren't competing for it. Some vitamins will compete with B12 and actually then negate some of it. That's why B12 in a multivitamin isn't always the best. If you are taking a multivitamin or giving like a little multivitamin gummy to your kids, I like to give B12 at the other half of the day. So if you give them like a little vitamin gummy in the morning, maybe give some B12 with dinner at a different time. But you're probably hitting that 5 micrograms a day between breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day just through fortified foods. I do give my kids a little adult dissolvable 1,000 micrograms. I give that to them every single Sunday. Every now and then I'll throw it in on a Wednesday. It's more than they need. It's water soluble. There's no upper limit toxicity. It's not going to hurt them. I want to make sure that they have all of the B12 that they need. Okay, so a chewable or a sublingual, anything that they'll roll with, right? If they'll let you squirt it under their tongue, all right, go with it. Those sublinguals are so huge, along with a chewable. And I tell my kids, don't chew it. Okay, don't use your teeth. Just use your tongue and the roof of your mouth, because the B12 will bind with proteins in our saliva coming off of our tongue, and that'll help it get through your stomach and into your digestive system. So B12, that's huge. Iodine, like I said, this is the hardest one to get in for your kids. Why do we need it? Okay, chemical reactions, protein synthesis, metabolic activity. But here's the big one: iodine is required for proper skeletal and central nervous system development in fetuses and infants. Okay. There's a reason we started adding iodine to salt, just table salt, iodized salt, because in the goiter belt, we were having major problems, which decimated generations of families because they missed out on central nervous system development when they were kids from iodine deficiency. So making sure your kids are getting their iodine every day is incredibly important. How much do they need? Ages 1 to 8, 90 micrograms. 9 to 13, 120. And then older than that, They're on the 150, which is the same for adults. Okay. You can give too much. Okay. Once we're hitting 1,000 or a gram every single day of iodine, we're getting to be too much. And that's where we can have thyroid problems. Okay. But we want to make sure that these are some numbers that we are hitting. So where do we get our iodine from? Vegan diet, it's difficult. If you're vegetarian, eggs and dairy products are going to provide your iodine. Vegans we don't eat the eggs and the dairy. And so where can we get it from? Seaweed, hey, kombu nori, arame, wakame, any seaweeds are going to have some. These can differ big time by the area that they're pulled from, and eating too much, you can overdo it. Every now and then, we like to have sushi at my house, and so we'll just do up some vegan sushi with some seaweed wraps. That's a great way to get it in. But to be real upfront and honest, I salt my kids' food. And this is the reason why. Not much. Quarter teaspoon has 75, I believe, in a quarter teaspoon, 75 micrograms. It's got about half of an adult's need. So a half of a teaspoon of salt, so again, which isn't all that much, is going to hit an adult's need. For kids, take some table salt, put it on some of their food, but getting that in every single day. Okay. Again, especially because vegans, we lead this healthy lifestyle, the vast majority of us, and I'm sure that you are. Everybody wants to do the best by their kids and get everything in, and so a lot of probably looking and thinking, salt, no, I don't ever salt my kids' food. I don't want them getting salt. This is one of those spots where this is incredibly important. So just a little bit on their foods kind of throughout the day. I even, like, my kids love watermelon. I put a tiny little bit of salt on there. So it gets it in. The salt brings out the sweetness from the watermelon. I know my kids are getting their iodine because it's so incredibly important. It's so easy to put some salt on your foods, but I think a lot of us don't. And I didn't for a long time. I was looking for other ways, and it's simply the easiest way to do it. Make sure you're getting an iodized salt for that, not sea salt and these others, which are absolutely no healthier than just an iodized salt. Salt is salt is salt. Yes, some of the others, pink Himalayan sea salt, might have a couple other vitamins and nutrients in it, but it is so small that it's inconsequential when you're looking at the rest of the food that you're eating every day. So go for the iodized salt, put that in there. And also understand that salt that's added into like processed foods is not iodized. Okay. I don't know 100% the reason why they don't iodize the salt. My guess would be because you could have people eating way too much of it, especially with processed foods, and we could have those problems hitting that toxic levels of too much iodine. So my guess would be that's why. So when you're looking on a package of a processed food that you're going to give to your kids, some crackers or whatever, some Triscuits, my kids love Triscuits. You go in there and you see sodium, that's not going to be iodized. Okay. So like I said, hugely important. Okay. You can, if your kids don't like seaweed, if they don't like sushi, if they don't want to eat any of that stuff, you can crumble seaweed into rices and pastas, and it's just going to be covered up, and the kids aren't even going to notice it. Maybe throw it into some smoothies. That's another great way to get it in if you really, really, really want to avoid the salt. So a couple of different options there. All right. Iron. Why do we need iron? What's it essential for? Physical growth, neurological development, cellular functioning, synthesis of hormones. Okay. This is in our hemoglobin. Iron's going to bind to oxygen, and this is how we get oxygen from our lungs out to the rest of our bodies and get it to where we need. Iron is incredibly important. We have to get it for our children. And again, on a plant-based diet, it's not necessarily harder. In fact, most people get most of their iron from plant sources. It's going to be what we call non-heme iron. So there's two kinds of iron, heme iron and non-heme iron. Animal products are going to be heme. There are problems with heme iron. That's where you can get into iron toxicity because your body cannot get rid of, really struggles to get rid of heme iron. The biggest way that we get rid of heme iron is through bleeding. So if you get frequent bloody noses, you're probably getting rid of it. Or as you get older, if you're on a regular menstrual cycle, you're getting rid of some iron that way. But if you're eating meat all day, every day, you're getting a lot of heme iron, and that's not good for you. Non-heme iron, which is going to come from plants, our bodies use what they need at that time, and then they get rid of the rest. So that means if you get some in the morning and your body had some heme iron or some non-heme iron already sitting in there, and it couldn't uptake a lot of it and it got rid of the rest, then you could potentially, if you were counting on all of your iron, getting it all in the morning, you could potentially be under by that evening. So I guess what I'm getting at here is iron every single day for vegans. Okay. 1 to 3 years old, they need 7 milligrams. 4 to 8 years old, they need 10. 9 to 13, they need 8. Okay. And I'm not going into any differences between boys and girls. That's not really the purpose of this. An adult male needs 8 milligrams. So looking at a 4 to 8-year-old, they need even more because physical growth, neurological development. Kids are growing at a very, very rapid pace, and their brains and central nervous systems are growing. So we've got to be making sure that we're getting iron in every single day. Here's a huge list. Okay. Pause it, write it down, look at it, go and just take note of what do you give your kids every day? Lentils, chickpeas, beans, tofu, raisins. Okay. Fortified foods. Again, that's what I'm usually looking at. I'm looking at how much iron is in the soy milk, or if they have an oat milk that day, how much iron is in that. So how much did they get from those? And then what was in a breakfast cereal that they had, or, how much was in the beans that they had or in the tofu. And I'm just kind of taking stock. I know I want them right in that 10 milligram range. I know where I want them to be. So I'm just kind of looking at that every single day. And are they getting what they need? Okay. Here's another tip. Have iron with vitamin C. Vitamin C is going to help with the absorption of that. Okay. So if you're giving your kids a good whole food vegan diet, toss in some fruit with every single meal. Okay. Kiwis, strawberries. My kids love strawberries, oranges. These are all going to have a good amount of vitamin C in them. And that's going to help grab onto that non-heme iron and help us absorb it. Okay. For adults, like I said, I wasn't really going to go into that, but especially if you're nursing and if you're counting on what you're providing to be giving your baby everything that they need. Vitamin C is a huge one, especially if you're drinking. You want to avoid coffee and tea with your iron, because it's going to chelate and it's going to block some of the absorption from that. So vitamin C along with your foods, which as a whole food vegan should be a pretty easy one to do. All right, our omega-3 fats. Why do we need them? They help build cell walls, helps to regulate our blood pressure. It helps in blood clotting. It helps to maintain our cholesterol levels. Cholesterol is important. It's important for brain health, growth, and development. So again, in that birth on up through childhood, okay, the brain is growing and developing. In fact, I think that the human brain isn't fully done developing until like 27 years old. So it goes for a long time. But in these early stages, brain growth, and we need omega-3s. Okay. Where do omnivores get their omega-3s from? Fish, typically. Where's the fish get the omega-3s from? Algae. So you can skip the middleman and go straight to the algae, okay, and to those sea vegetables. So if you're getting those, you're going to be getting a good amount of omega-3s in. Okay? But with kids, they don't always like the taste of that. If they're not eating fish, if they're not vegetarians, they're not eating maybe like omega-3 eggs, where the chicken has been fed some of those an omega-3 fortified grain. Okay, then it's not going to be so. If you're vegetarian, you can look for omega-3 eggs, but if we're talking vegan, we need to make sure that we're getting this in every single day. So how are we going to do that? Okay. One last thing I had on this slide. Not getting enough omega-3s in can lead to reduced growth rates in kids. So incredibly important here. All right. The jury's kind of out on omega-3 fatty acids, exactly how much we need. In fact, omega-3s by themselves and omega-6s are not necessarily considered essential. ALA, alpha linoleic acid, is what is really considered essential. We have to have it. And then ALA, alpha linoleic acid, is going to create those omega-3 fatty acids that we need in order to help build our brain. But, but exactly how much and what the research really says about brain growth and development, even for kids, we know it's important, but our studies, they're not fantastic just yet. So I'm not saying don't worry about it, but what I am saying is we don't 100% know. So here's what we do know. Okay, um, ALA, there's a low conversion. So however much omega-3 we need, if we say, okay, we need, let's say, a gram of omega-3 every single day, I'm going to eat a gram of ALA and I'm going to call it good. That's not going to work, okay, because it's not going to convert 1 to 1 over. So if you eat that 1 gram of ALA every day, you're going to be low on your omega-3. So we do know that conversion rates are low. Okay, so between the ages of 1 and 3, we need about 0.7 grams, or about 700 milligrams a day. Ages 4 to 8, we need about 0.9, 900 milligrams a day. Ages 9 to 13, we say about 1 gram per day, 1,000 milligrams for girls, 1.2 for boys. Okay, vegans likely need more. There we go. Vegans likely need more because the conversion is low. So, like I said, omnivores are getting their omega-3 fatty acids from fish, and that's just a 1-to-1. They're getting all that in. But vegans, we're going to need to be making sure that we get in maybe even a little bit more ALA than we truly need, just to make sure that we're covered. It's actually really easy to do. All right, what are our sources of ALA every single day? We got a whole bunch. Think seeds, okay? Chia seeds, flax meal, hemp hearts, walnuts, canola oil. And I mentioned canola oil earlier. This is where it's pretty good. It's loaded in it, okay? It's got a ton. The number one source for ALA is flax oil, also called linseed oil or flaxseed oil. You're going to see them like that. It's got a ton. It is absolutely loaded. So if you're going to be, it's maybe with flax oil, I don't like to cook in it, but I might add it to some veggies. My kids like it that way. And that's a great way to get some of their ALA in. Edamame, soybeans, seaweeds. Again, that's where the fish are getting it from. Algae. Okay. To be honest, where my kids get the vast majority of theirs is from hemp hearts, flax meal, and chia seeds. Okay. A teaspoon of hemp hearts is like 2 grams. And so if we go back, if my kids need in that 4 to 8 years old range, they need less than a gram. 1 teaspoon of hemp hearts gets them 2 grams. I've already doubled what they need, and that's just in one serving. And it's really easy to add that onto. I'll add it onto pancakes. Okay, I'll cut up their pancakes, sprinkle some of those on there, and then put on some maple syrup or some agave. It's delicious. My kids love it. They'll have at least a teaspoon in there. I'll put it on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or peanut butter and banana sandwiches. I'll add them into oatmeal. I'll add them into smoothies. Okay. My kids like walnuts. I always just have a thing of walnuts sitting right in the refrigerator door. My kids love to just eat those all day long. They're delicious. Okay. So sneaking these foods in there for your kids, if you're going to be doing some cooking, cook in some canola oil, there's going to be a little bit in extra virgin olive oil. So again, getting fats in there. If you're getting your fats in there, try to also focus on some of these ones so that we can get their ALA. But again, incredibly important. Don't need to be looking into I did for quite a while and I studied food science and human nutrition. I am a holistic nutritionist, but once I had kids, everything kind of goes out the window. Like, I know what to do, but now it's my child and I want to make sure I love them. I just want to protect them. I want to make sure they get every single thing that they need. So all of a sudden I'm thinking about this and I'm worrying about this a little bit more. And so um, there are little vials you can get with like a little sublingual, but really, I just make sure that my kids are getting a lot of this stuff in every single day, and they're good. All right. What about omega-6 fatty acids? You probably have heard about those. They are abundant in the plant kingdom, they're all over the place. In fact, it's almost less about how much omega-3 do we need. Um, we're getting too much most of the time omega-6s. That's one of the beautiful things about a vegan or a plant-based diet, is that the omega-6 fatty acids are down. Omega-6 fatty acids are pro-inflammatory, and so while we do need them, we absolutely need them, and we are not trying to avoid them. On a standard American diet, the typical Western diet, we get in way too much. And so we're eating this incredibly pro inflammatory diet. And that's why we need so much omega-3, which is anti inflammatory, to balance that back out. On a whole food vegan diet, we're bringing that inflammation way down in our kids. And then we just need the ALA to create those omega-3s so that we can grow their brains. Just constantly thinking about that for your kid. Grow their brain, grow their brain. Okay. Vitamin D, last one we're going to talk about. Where do we get our vitamin D from? Why do we need it? Vitamin D promotes calcium absorption. That's why anytime you look at any kind of a food, you look on a nutrition label, you're going to see calcium. You're also going to see vitamin D. A lot of the time it's D2, which is not as readily absorbed as D3, but it's the one that was used for a long, long time. It is far cheaper, which is the biggest reason that it's added into foods. We do absorb it. It is vitamin D. It's not as readily absorbable as D3, but it's still good. Together, these two things prevent rickets. Okay, calcium and vitamin D. Rickets, easiest way to think about it is just a softening of bone, which can lead to a whole bunch of problems. Okay, so we don't want to see that in our kids. They need a lot of calcium every day, and they need to be getting in their vitamin D along with that. So it helps to maintain those calcium and phosphate levels, and it's incredibly necessary for bone growth and remodeling, and that's what we're really talking about with our kids. Outside of all of the other things that vitamin D does for us, that's the big one. Okay, how much do they need? Ages 1 to 18, 15 micrograms or 600 IUs, international units each day. That's what you're usually going to see when you're looking on a nutrition label with vitamin D, is usually going to be in IUs. They need about 600 a day. How do we get it? Okay. Spend time in direct sunlight. Okay. Here's a problem with direct sunlight. That means no sunscreen, and that means full torso. Okay. And that also means midday sun, not early in the morning and not in the evening. We're talking midday sun, 15 to 30 minutes, full torso. Okay. So no shirt and no sunscreen. If you're doing that, you can get your vitamin D. Okay. My boys in our backyard in the middle of summer, where we are, we're out in the middle of the day. They're running around without shirts on. They're playing in their little kiddie pool. Okay. We go out, we spend some time. I don't have sunscreen on them. They're getting plenty of sunlight. They're getting all the vitamin D that they need. Now, I don't leave my kids out there for 2-3 hours at a time without sunblock, because I don't want them to get just toasted and burned. But, we go out, we play for 15, 20, 30 minutes. We go in, we get a little bite to eat. I slather some sunscreen on them, make sure that's good. We go back out because I know that they've already hit that need. Do your thing, go spend some time in the shade. But so if you're getting that in every single day, you're good. Pacific Northwest, Washington State, we're up really, really high up here. Okay. We're going to get that good sun June to September. After that, okay, it's going to be really hard to get all the vitamin D that we need from the sun, which means now we're looking at supplementing. Okay. Fortified foods is a great way then to supplement that. 600 IUs. Look at the foods that you're giving your kids. How much are they getting in? Okay. Or you can go with a little vitamin D3 gummy. They've got a ton of those out there made for vegans. And so get some of those and you can be good to go. I give my kids those during the winter time just to make sure that they get that. So should you supplement? I've talked a lot about it in here. Do you need to? Should you be supplementing? I don't know. That's up to you. There are a lot of vegan gummy supplements for kids that are out there, everything from multivitamins to calciums, D3. There's iron. Okay, there's a ton out there. You need to look at your child's diet first and how much are they getting just from the foods that they're already eating. Okay. If you notice that your kids are a little bit low in something, Okay, maybe they're a little bit low in calcium. Think about how you can up that just through food. Okay, can you buy a better nut milk and get that in every single day, or maybe give them that instead of water with meals? Like, what are some things that you can do in order to get that in? Kids can be picky eaters. Okay, so if your child's a real picky eater and you're noticing that all of the foods that are fortified with what you want them to have, they just absolutely can't get, those little gummies taste good, and that can be a great way to get it in there. So I guess the one thing that I'm really asking for here is when you're thinking about the health of your child as opposed to the health of yourself, those two things can be different. And it's okay to give them something that you might think, I don't want to give them that because it's got sugar in it. Okay, that may be the way that we're getting these vitamins and nutrients in, and they are so incredibly important to the growth and development of your child. So be willing to back off on that and give those things to your kid if you can't get it from food. Okay, I threw a couple of these up here just as some examples, ones that I've tried with my kids and that they've liked. Okay, yeah, Coral Calcium Vitamin D3 Kids Gummy. You can pick that up on Amazon. The Mama Bear Organic Kids Vitamin D3, which provides 1,000 IU's. This is a great one that I give to my kids in the wintertime. Multivitamin, Nitromin, sugar-free, allergen-free, vegan gummy multivitamin for kids. I will link those down in the subscription or down in the description. I am not an Amazon affiliate. I'm talking to you strictly as a parent and holistic nutritionist who uses these with my own children. Okay. So what do you need to do next? Okay. Track your kids eating for a couple of days. You just look at it. You don't need to count every single calorie, but look at it and kind of take stock of it. What are they getting in? How many calories? How much fat? How much protein? Okay, are you hitting some of these numbers that I just kind of threw out there for you? Are they getting in their iodine? Are they getting in enough calcium, enough vitamin D, enough iron? So just track it. Okay. Um, Write down some of the numbers that I gave you, stick those up, look at them each day, and see if there's anything that you're low on. Look for foods that you could add in and get those for your kids. And if you just absolutely can, if you've got a really, really picky eater and there's just nothing that can get them the vitamins and minerals that they need, possibly look into some supplements if that works and if that's right for you. Another thing you can do is talk to your pediatrician. In my area, I've got a great vegan pediatrician who she supports the vegan lifestyle and she knows what kids need. I got tired, going into the first pediatrician that we had and having her ask, about my 6 month old, is he eating meat yet? He didn't even have teeth. Okay. So I eventually found a really, really good pediatrician, actually group of pediatricians and that I can take my kids to. So just look around your area, talk to your pediatrician if you need to. I've got a couple of websites that I would love for you to check out outside of my own herbivoremuscle.com. I'm always putting, good stuff up there. Anything that I think that will help you out. If there are things that you need to want to know about, put them down in the comments, add that in there, and I'll put it out there for you guys. Um, Dr. Jackie Bussey, she goes by the plant-based pediatrician. She's absolutely incredible, and she's got her own kids. This is what she does: plant-based vegan pediatrician. She's got awesome information out there, so she's another great one to go and check out. And the last is plantbasedjuniors.com. Whitney and Alex, they are registered dietitians. They do absolutely amazing and incredible things. Both plant-based pediatrician and plant-based juniors, they have Instagram accounts for sure. I believe they also have Facebook. They've got their own website. So just a couple other places to go check out, get information. But I guess what I want to leave you with today is know that kids have certain needs, and what is appropriate for adults or what might be the best thing for us isn't necessarily the best thing for kids. Okay, they're gonna have other needs. Make sure they're getting calorie dense foods. Make sure they're getting in a good amount of fat, and especially focusing on the fats that I talked about here today. Um, Oil is totally okay for your kids. Salt, iodized salt, totally okay for your kids. Get those things in there. Should be easy enough, especially if you're adding in a soy milk as opposed to like an almond milk to hit their both their protein and their calcium needs every single day. Okay. If you found this helpful, please hit that thumbs up. That's going to help the Google algorithm know that I'm doing good stuff out here. If you want to see my next videos that are coming out or be notified when those are coming, subscribe and hit that bell to get notified. And if you have any questions, any comments, please throw them down in that comment section. I will absolutely do my best to get on there and to answer questions. And like I said, herbivoremuscle.com. Head on over there, see some of the other great stuff that I've got going on. And if you need any help with your own diet, with your own nutrition, you can hit me up in there, in here. Herbivore Muscle on Instagram. You can hit me up there as well. Let me know. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help. Have a great one, guys, and I will talk to you later.